Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SB Reacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Jane Fallon titled Resilience. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the art for the album Sweet Resilience. It's their latest release, Jane's latest release. The song Resilience is off of it. Apparently Jane is a multi-award-winning songwriter, having won the Woody Guthrie Songwriting Competition as well as the American Songwriter Magazine Lyric Contest and the South Florida Folk Festival. So we're dealing with someone who has some serious songwriting chops, and be good to listen through the song today. We're going to listen through it from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. And just so you know, we're going to be rating this song at the end based on various musical criteria out of 10, but for now, let's go, let's do it.
It takes some resilience to be quiet in a world that's filled with noise. To lift a shining face into the dawn before the morning thunder comes. To finger pick a melody that's sweet. To the constant sound of tapping feet that only want to hear the strums and drums.
Interesting change in meter there.
It takes some resilience to be quiet in a world that's filled with noise.
Great trade-off to a lead.
It takes some resilience to be real in a world filled with pretend. To project your truth when everybody else just goes along. To resist the playing of the game where everybody acts the same and no one dares to sing a different song. It takes some resilience to be real in a world filled with pretend.
Great guitar layering there, I like the
Just breathe deep and know our time here is brief. Live and love the best you can. Take your brother by the hand, and soon it's time to go. It takes some resilience to be simple in a world that's filled with things. To be content with less and know happiness is not possessing stuff. To know the key to living well is not in a house, a car, or on a yacht. Bare necessities and love might be enough. It takes some resilience to be simple in a world that's filled with things.
I like how we go with things. You know, like we've repeated that line a few times, but for whatever reason, it's just an unexpected word or line at the end of it. It catches your attention because you're expecting it either to rhyme or
It takes some resilience to be peaceful in a world that's filled with rage. To rise above the anger that shouts and shoots its way across the sky. Sometimes the best that we can do is reach out to a special few and never understand the reasons why. It takes some resilience to be peaceful in a world that's filled with rage. Oh, just breathe deep and know our time here is brief. Live and love the best you can. Take your brother by the hand, and soon it's time to go. It takes some resilience to be quiet in a world that's filled with noise.
I'm immensely impressed by that. It's going to be a positive review section or conclusion, but we're going to talk about it more in a moment. Sup Shredders, post-production Spiderhands here. Just making a little brief note before we get into the conclusion of this video. I found out in post after listening through it that apparently Nicky V Music has got guitar as well as producer credits within this track as the guitarist producer. So I just wanted to make that sort of like mention there. If you hear me say that Jane was playing guitar, I think that means that actually Nicky V Music was playing the guitar. Either way, I think Jane's vocals and Nicky's guitar playing are fantastic. So see you in the conclusion. And so welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Jane Fallon, titled Resilience, off of the Sweet Resilience album, their 8th CD that they've released, which is pretty phenomenal. Just before we go any further, I want to mention I gave the song an overall score of 8.1 out of 10, which I feel is a really positive score. There's a lot of stuff that was done really, really well here. A few of the things which we're going to talk about in specific in this conclusion section. What do we think this track is about? I think that this song is about someone discussing how difficult it can be to be different, to not kind of give in to all the noise and to all the rage that's going on. How difficult it can be to simply not do anything to be happy, to not sort of like just suffer at the thought of no happiness, just be able to accept things for what they are and not just be, to not have things. I think it's a wonderful thing to write music about, especially in this day and age where there is just so much consumption and so much outrage and everything like that. So I feel like it's a very timely piece and there's going to be an audience for it who'll be able to relate to it. I feel like it's a very sort of like pensive track. One of the highlights for me of this song are Jane's vocals. They've just got this wonderful warmth to it, an incredible patience, and whether they're on their own or there are some backing or sort of like chorus vocals there, it's just whether you have those intervals there, the sweetness of the major or minors there, it's kind of like being wrapped in like a warm, cozy blanket. It's very easy music to listen to. We're comfortable on a head and chest voice there. There's a wonderful vibrato at times there. We transition between notes effectively. The rhythms we use on the mic are really sort of like there's a lot of variety to that without being too much. And we navigate the changing meters and time signatures really well as well. And we'll talk about that in a moment from a structural perspective. There's a lot of really positive stuff to talk about. I usually should like limit it to kind of 3 main areas, but yeah, the vocals, the expression there is just wonderful there. It's just a very earnest, authentic performance from a musician who clearly knows what they're doing and has the chops that they have that are really good. I want to also talk about the structure of this track. I think that for a song that has a relative consistency to its finger-to-pick kind of like claw hammer technique with the acoustic guitar there going between the bass notes like that. Really well played, by the way. Great sort of finesse to the technique. With occasional like leads over top of it, with like really neat little like solo licks there, like the way we sort of like move swiftly between those notes. So we've clearly got some chops on the guitar. But it's we didn't really need more than that instrumentally. I feel like that was enough to keep us going throughout the piece. And in a day and age where it can be very difficult to sustain interest when you don't have other instruments coming in on multiples there, or you don't sort of like build it up further and have that kind of staircase approach, to have 4.5 minutes of a song where there is simply Jane and her guitar, or it's just wonderful. It's testament to their expertise in understanding music theory and composition, the fundamentals, and it's a showcase of their ability as a songwriter. You know, clearly they know what they're doing. And we had like a few different chord progressions and bass lines there that we went between, and it was enough to keep us going with those breaks for solo parts there. And we had, I think a lot of it was the storytelling, the lyrics, the tale that we were telling there, and how we used space really neatly. We didn't have vocals all the time. And because you could understand clearly what was going on with the story and it was interesting to listen to, that kind of carried you along. You didn't necessarily even maybe need the lead parts, but they were the icing on the cake. So structurally fantastic. And it's also the studio production. Now, it was kind of a little bit raw, but I appreciate that. I think that if you tried to over-polish this, if you'd noise-gated it completely, it would have just seemed a little bit too kind of sterile here. We have this kind of like glow to the sound of the guitars there. You can tell they've been like acoustic, like analog recorded. But you know, like I'm not going to go on an analog versus digital spiel, don't worry. It's just, I appreciate being able to hear someone doing a performance. And for that to be caught on mic and just to have the room sound and Jane there and doing the overdubs and everything like that, I just think it's fantastic. There were no issues technically with the recording. It was very proficient there. The panning stuff was nice. The layering and arrangement wasn't too complicated, so it was fairly easy to follow along with what was going on there from a listening perspective, and I assume it would have been easier to work with from a production perspective. But it's not like they didn't do the work that was required to get things to niche and meld well. The music filled you in the stereo field and the headphones. It was nice and loud without pumping. Things were quite well glued, and at times there wasn't a lot of dynamic range, but I don't necessarily mind that as long as the atmosphere or ambience that's created is sufficient to the needs of the music and the stories being told here. And I feel you kind of imagine a setting where you could hear them on stage kind of singing through this, and I feel like it's a song that people need to hear. But yeah, just to conclude, I feel the main areas that I appreciated were the extra structure and the songwriting that went alongside with it. You know, I could have spoken about the rhythm parts and the performances and stuff like that. Like the guitar performance is fantastic, the harmonies and stuff. Basically, the areas I talked about were some of the really cool things about this track, and I reckon there's a lot more to appreciate, and that's probably the biggest kind of like feedback, positive feedback I could provide. And thank you for watching my review of this track titled Resilience. Hopefully you enjoyed it from Jane Fallon. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias. You can also check out her music on Bandcamp. And stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.